Every night, millions of people lie in bed, tossing and turning, their minds racing with thoughts, worries, and unfinished tasks. What if there was a simple, effortless way to silence that mental noise, reset your brain, and fall asleep deeply and peacefully? Tonight, you can give your mind the reset it has been begging for, a short bedtime ritual that clears stress, calms your thoughts, and prepares your body for the most restorative sleep you've ever experienced. This isn't a gimmick, a pill, or a gadget. It's a practical, science-backed method that anyone can do, starting tonight. Releasing the day with intentional breathing is a practice that trains the mind to let go of accumulated tension and mental clutter. All day long, your brain is processing decisions, conversations, responsibilities, and unexpected moments that leave subtle imprints on your nervous system. By nighttime, these imprints can grow into restlessness, overthinking, and emotional heaviness. Intentional breathing works like a bridge between your waking mind and your resting state, gently guiding your body toward calm and signaling your brain that it can finally stop running the day's programs. When you sit down at the end of the night and bring awareness to your breath, you redirect your attention away from the swirl of thoughts and into your physical presence. This shift alone begins to quiet mental noise because the brain can only fully focus on one thing at a time. As you inhale slowly, your diaphragm expands, sending signals to the vagus nerve that activates your parasympathetic nervous system, your natural rest and restore mode. Each deep breath softens your heart rate, loosens the grip of stress hormones, and gives your mind permission to detach from the pressures of the day. Intentional breathing is not about forcing relaxation, it's about inviting it. As you breathe in, you imagine drawing in clarity, space, and ease. As you breathe out, you release the thoughts that no longer serve you, worries you've carried, conversations that replay in your head, tasks still left undone. You don't need to analyze these thoughts or solve any lingering problems. The breath becomes your anchor, and the simple act of observing it creates distance between you and the mental chatter. Over time, your body learns to associate this breathing pattern with emotional release, making it easier to unwind each night. The more consistently you practice, the faster your mind understands that this moment signals the closing of the day. Releasing the day with intentional breathing also gives you a chance to process your emotional state without getting stuck in it. Every inhale lifts your awareness, every exhale grounds your energy. Instead of carrying frustrations or anxieties into bed, you allow them to pass through you, acknowledging them without giving them the power to follow you into sleep. This practice gently dissolves the tension stored in your shoulders, jaw, neck, and chest areas that unconsciously tighten throughout the day. With each breath, these muscles loosen, creating a sense of physical relief that supports mental and emotional release. The beauty of intentional breathing lies in its simplicity. You can do it sitting up, lying down, or even standing for a moment before bed. It requires no equipment, no special environment, only your presence and a willingness to let go. The quiet rhythm of your breath becomes a nightly ritual, a cue that your responsibilities can wait until morning and that you are allowed to rest fully. Over time, this practice becomes a natural transition between the busyness of your external world and the quiet restoration your inner world needs. Writing down lingering thoughts or worries is one of the most effective ways to clear mental space before sleep because it takes what the mind tries so hard to hold on to and transfers it into a place where it no longer needs constant attention. Throughout the day, your mind collects concerns, reminders, unfinished tasks, emotional reactions, and random thoughts that pop up at inconvenient times. When nighttime arrives and your body is ready to wind down, your mind often refuses to follow, believing it must keep replaying information to ensure it isn't forgotten. This is why people experience racing thoughts the moment they lie down. The quiet of the night exposes everything the mind has tried to suppress or postpone. By writing these thoughts on paper, you relieve your brain of the burden of memory, giving it permission to let go without fear of losing track of something important. This process works because your brain sees written words as stored information. When a worrying stays in your head, the mind treats it like an unresolved loop, a task without closure. Even if no action can be taken at night, the mind continues to process it, trying to keep it active. The physical act of writing provides a sense of completion, even if temporary. Once the thought is documented, the mental loop breaks, allowing your brain to relax. It no longer feels responsible for holding every detail. This alone reduces mental tension and can prevent the spiral of overthinking that often keeps people awake longer than they intend. Writing down thoughts is not about crafting perfect sentences or solving every problem. It is a release, a transfer, a quiet unloading of mental weight. You simply write whatever comes up, tasks you need to do tomorrow, emotions you felt today, worries that tug at your attention, ideas that pop in unexpectedly, or reminders that your mind refuses to drop. There is no judgment and no need for structure. This is not a journal entry meant for reflection. It is a clearing process meant for mental freedom. Think of it as taking inventory of your mind so it doesn't spill over into your sleep. As you write, you may notice your breathing slow and your body soften. This happens because the act of writing engages your motor skills and shifts your brain out of emotional processing and into a calmer, more neutral state. Problems feel less overwhelming when they exist outside your head. A worrying that feels heavy in your mind often shrinks when you see it written plainly on a page. Thoughts that once felt tangled become simpler because writing forces clarity, even when the goal isn't to make sense of them. The moment they leave your mind and land on paper, they lose some of their emotional charge. This nightly practice also creates consistency. Over time, your brain learns that writing is part of your transition into rest. It begins to anticipate the unloading process, making it easier each night to let go. Even on stressful days, the habit acts like a reset button, offering mental stillness where chaos once lived. Focusing on a moment of gratitude before bed shifts the mind from a state of tension to a state of calm awareness by redirecting attention toward what is stable, supportive, or positive in your life. Throughout the day, the brain is naturally wired to notice problems, risks, and responsibilities, a survival pattern that often leaves you emotionally drained by nighttime. When you intentionally pause and bring to mind something you appreciate, you interrupt that automatic cycle and replace it with a feeling of safety and contentment. This doesn't require grand achievements or dramatic experiences. Gratitude can be as simple as acknowledging a quiet moment you enjoyed, a person who showed kindness, a task you completed, a meal you had, or simply the fact that you made it through the day. This small shift in focus signals to the mind that it no longer needs to stay in alert mode, easing the transition toward rest. Gratitude also softens emotional turbulence. When you recall something you value, your brain releases neurotransmitters associated with relaxation and well-being. Stress hormones begin to decrease, and your nervous system gradually shifts into a calmer state. Even if the day was difficult, finding one thing to appreciate can break the emotional momentum of frustration or worrying. This balancing effect helps the mind settle, making it easier to loosen the grip of anxiety or lingering thoughts. Instead of climbing into bed with a heavy heart or a restless mind, gratitude nudges your emotional state toward warmth, grounding, and clarity. It creates a buffer between the day's challenges and your night's rest, offering perspective that quiets internal noise. This practice becomes even more powerful when you engage your senses or emotions in the memory. If you think about a person you appreciate, allow yourself to feel the connection or warmth associated with them. If you reflect on a moment of peace, let the feeling of calm become vivid again. If you recall something that made you smile, let the memory bring that smile back. These emotional reinforcements deepen the effect of gratitude and give your mind something soothing to hold on to. Instead of wandering toward worries, your attention remains anchored in something gentle and reassuring. This helps your pre-sleep mental landscape become a place of comfort rather than tension. Focusing on gratitude also provides a form of closure to the day. Without it, the mind may dwell on unfinished tasks, mistakes, or conflicts. Gratitude reframes the day, highlighting what went right instead of what went wrong. This shift doesn't deny difficulties, it simply balances them. It reminds you that even within a challenging day, there were moments of connection, progress, or stability. By ending your evening with this perspective, you prevent negative emotions from accumulating overnight and influencing how you feel when you wake up. Instead, you allow yourself to drift into sleep with a sense of emotional equilibrium. Over time, this practice becomes a calming ritual. As soon as you begin focusing on gratitude, your mind recognizes it as a cue to slow down. The consistency strengthens its effect, making each night's transition into rest smoother and more natural. Creating a calm, screen-free environment before bed allows your brain to separate the high stimulation of the day from the deep rest it needs at night. Screens keep the mind in a state of alertness, feeding it information, movement, color, and light that mimic daylight and signal the brain to stay awake. Even when you think you are relaxed while scrolling, your mind is absorbing fragments of content, processing emotions, and staying mentally active. By removing screens from your pre-sleep routine, you interrupt this cycle and create a space where your thoughts can settle and your senses can soften. Your brain needs a clear transition period, a shift from stimulation to serenity, and a calm environment is the first step in making that transition feel natural. Light plays a major role in your ability to sleep. The blue light emitted by screens suppresses melatonin, the hormone responsible for regulating your sleep-wake cycle. Without sufficient melatonin, your body struggles to recognize that it is time to unwind. Turning off screens allows your hormone levels to return to their natural state, letting your system gently guide itself toward rest. Dimming household lights or using warm lighting can reinforce this process, telling your internal clock that the day is ending. This gradual dimming mirrors what your body was designed for in nature, making it easier to slip into a state of calm. A screen-free environment also reduces mental clutter. When you turn off your devices, you remove the constant influx of information messages, notifications, news, entertainment, opinions that compete for your attention. Without these disruptions, your mind begins to quiet on its own. You are no longer reacting to external stimuli. Instead, you become more aware of your internal state, your breath, and your body's natural desire to rest. This shift allows your thoughts to slow down, helping you avoid the mental overstimulation that often leads to insomnia or difficulty unwinding. Creating calm also involves sensory cues. Silence or soft background sounds, such as gentle music or a subtle fan, can signal to your brain that it is safe to relax. The temperature of the room matters as well. A cooler space encourages deeper sleep and prevents restlessness. Even the physical environment, tidy surfaces, soft bedding, and comfortable textures plays a role. When the space around you feels peaceful, your mind mirrors that atmosphere. Clutter, bright lights, and harsh noises keep the brain alert, while calm surroundings invite it into a slower, quieter rhythm. Establishing a nightly routine without screens further strengthens the association between your environment and rest. When your brain learns that certain cues, dim lights, quiet activities, stillness happen every night, it begins to anticipate sleep. This conditioning makes it easier over time for your mind to shift out of daytime energy and into nighttime calm. You build a psychological boundary between your waking hours and your resting hours, creating a protective space where your thoughts are less likely to wander and your nervous system is less likely to stay activated. A calm, screen-free environment becomes a sanctuary for your mind, a place where mental noise fades and your body's natural rhythms can emerge without interference. Using slow, steady breathing to trigger relaxation works because it directly influences the nervous system, shifting the body from a state of alertness into one of calm and restoration. Throughout the day, stress, stimulation, and constant decision-making keep the sympathetic nervous system activated, the part responsible for the fight-or-flight response. When this system stays active into the night, the body struggles to settle down and the mind becomes restless or overactive. Slow breathing acts like a switch, signaling to the brain that danger has passed and that it is safe to unwind. With each deliberate breath, the heart rate decreases, muscles release tension, and mental chatter begins to quiet. This gentle shift sets the stage for a deeper and more natural transition into sleep. The power of slow breathing lies in its simplicity. It is one of the few processes that connects the conscious and unconscious parts of the mind. Although breathing is automatic, you can intentionally change its rhythm, and when you do, your body listens. When breaths are shallow or rushed, the body interprets it as a sign of stress. When breaths are slow, deep, and steady, the body interprets it as safety. This biological relationship gives you a direct tool to influence your physical and emotional state without needing equipment, medication, or complex routines. Each breath becomes a signal of reassurance, steadily guiding your nervous system toward relaxation. Slow breathing also helps release physical tension stored throughout the day. People often carry stress in their shoulders, chest, jaw, and abdomen without realizing it. These tension patterns restrict natural breathing, creating a feedback loop that keeps the body alert and the mind unsettled. By intentionally slowing the breath, the muscles surrounding the lungs expand and relax, breaking the cycle of tightness. As the diaphragm moves more freely, the body begins to soften, allowing areas of tension to dissolve naturally. This physical release supports mental clarity, quieting the thoughts that often feel loudest at night. Another benefit of slow breathing is its ability to create focus. When you pay attention to your breath, you redirect your mind away from worries and into the present moment. You give your mind something gentle and repetitive to focus on, guiding it away from the mental loops that keep you awake. The rhythm of breathing becomes a calming anchor, slowly replacing chaos with stillness. This shift reduces mental clutter and interrupts cycles of overthinking. With each breath, the mind becomes less concerned with tasks, stressors, or unresolved situations and more attuned to the body's natural desire for rest. This type of breathing also encourages emotional balance. Taking slow breaths can soften feelings of frustration, anxiety, or lingering irritation from the day. As oxygen levels stabilize and the nervous system calms, emotional intensity decreases. The body releases signals that align with peace rather than stress, making it easier to settle into a restful state. Over time, practicing slow breathing before bed becomes a reliable ritual, teaching the body to expect calm when the breath slows. The more consistently it is practiced, the stronger this association becomes, making relaxation easier and more natural each night. Setting a clear intention for deep, restorative sleep creates a powerful mental cue that guides the mind toward rest by giving it direction instead of letting it drift into worrying or overthinking. The mind responds strongly to suggestion, especially at night when the conscious brain is beginning to quiet and the subconscious is more receptive. When you set an intention, such as reminding yourself that tonight you are choosing rest, calm, and renewal, you shift your internal dialogue away from stress and toward clarity. This allows the mind to release unnecessary tension and align itself with the state you want to experience. Instead of lying in bed with scattered thoughts or leftover stress from the day, you give your mind a simple message to follow, helping it transition more smoothly into a restful mode. This practice works because intentions act like internal guidance systems. Throughout the day, your thoughts are pulled in many different directions, and by nighttime, that momentum doesn't simply stop on its own. Without direction, the mind often leans into planning, worrying, or revisiting tasks that should be left for tomorrow. Setting an intention interrupts that cycle and creates a mental boundary that tells your mind that the day is complete. When you consciously choose a phrase or calming statement before bed, you create a moment of closure that signals to your thoughts that their work is done. This sense of psychological completion helps reduce mental clutter and prepares your brain for rest. Intentions also shape emotional tone. At night, emotions from the day can linger: frustration, disappointment, excitement, or even unresolved conversations. These emotions influence the quality of your sleep if they are left unaddressed. When you focus on an intention like peace, renewal, letting go, or healing, you shift your emotional state from reactive to receptive. You invite calmness to replace agitation and create a space where the mind feels safe enough to unwind. This emotional shift is subtle but powerful, helping the body relax and the mind soften into a more peaceful state. Over time, this habitual emotional reset becomes a natural part of your pre-sleep pattern. Setting an intention can also strengthen your sense of control over your sleep. Many people struggle with restlessness or racing thoughts because they feel that sleep is something that happens to them rather than something they can influence. By choosing an intention, you take an active role in guiding your experience. It becomes a grounding ritual that reminds you that you have agency over your mental state. This feeling of control reduces anxiety about falling asleep and reinforces a sense of trust in your body's ability to rest. Repeating an intention reinforces its effect. Each time you say it in your mind, you deepen the association between the phrase and the calm state you want to enter. Whether it's a gentle reminder to quiet your thoughts or an affirmation that your body knows how to restore itself, the repetition guides your subconscious toward stillness. This consistency turns your intention into a cue that your brain learns to recognize. As nights go by, your mind begins to respond more quickly, transitioning into relaxation with less effort.